okay. He says, that's okay. And Nixon, you can still buy things in America. What are you complaining about? You see? But what that did, that took away the last constraint on the American government's ability to print money. Because now the paper money, and it's the same today as it was then, this paper money is not redeemable for anything except other pieces of paper. Okay? If you go to the Fed and you say, I've got a $20 bill, I want to turn this in, give me some money, they'd say, okay, here's 2 10s or 4 5s. You want 21s? You can have that, you see? So, and notice they would probably prefer to give you 2 10s than 21s. Why? Because 2 10s cost them 8 cents. 21s cost them 80 cents, okay? Think about that. They got to pay 4 cents for each one of those bills, right? So, I mean, think about the big saving there. Anyway, that's an economist joke. Anyway. So, there's no constraint then from that point on the government printing money. So then they say, well, what the hell? Let's print some money, okay? So now, let's see if this is one. So now this only goes back to 1980, you see, but you can see how the money supply, can y'all see that, how it's growing? Can you read it? Everybody, any problems reading it? So you see the money supply is taking off. Here we are at 1980, say, what is that, 82 or something, and you've got $2 trillion, notice what this is. It's a discontinued series, M3. Why do you think they discontinued it? Because the numbers kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and when they saw how it was going up like that, they didn't want people to see it anymore. But it goes from 2 trillion to over 10 trillion. Woo! But that's just one way of measuring money. Some people say, well, that's not a good way of measuring money. Okay? So then instead of M3, we have MZM. Well, you can see MZM in 1982 or whatever it is. It's about maybe 1,000, right? And then about 2008 or whatever, it's over 8,000, up around 9,000. Woo! Wait a minute, Barnett, you're counting it the wrong way. Get me some better numbers than that. All right. Oh, no, I think that's the only numbers I have there. But at any rate, you get the idea. So, what's happening with all this money as it goes out into the economy? Well, if you look, the money starts pouring into the markets. Now let's understand how money gets out there. Money is not spent into existence, which it would be if the Treasury just printed up the money to pay for whatever it was going to buy. Instead, notice, they sell it to the Fed, and then the Fed lends it back to them. When that happens, and then the money is spent by the government, well, the first thing that's happened is when it was lent back to the Treasury, that affected interest rates. The very first place that new money enters the economy when it's lent into existence is in the financial markets. And like anything, so they're printing new money, they're creating new money, some's printed, some's electronic. When they do that, it shows up first in the financial markets, and of course, in the financial markets, prices are going up, prices of stocks, prices of bonds, and everybody's saying, thank God we've been saved, Our bond prices are going up, our stock prices are going up, we're wealthy and all that. Well, you can't get wealthy by printing money, okay? So when your bond and stock prices go up, you have to ask, well, why? You see? Is there some increase in the intrinsic value of the business, the corporation whose stock you hold? Have they become more productive? Did they find new products? I mean, what are they doing differently? New technologies? What? And if it's none of that stuff, then you're probably pretty sure that the reason the price is going up is it's inflation. You can have inflation of asset prices just like you can have inflation of the price of corn or wheat or cars or shoes. But most people don't think that way. Now, when it gets real bad, all of a sudden everybody realizes, oh, that's a bubble. That's not good terminology, really. That's asset price inflation. When people say a bubble, what they're really talking about is asset price inflation. Prices of assets going up when it's unwarranted. That's the first place the money shows up. Then after a while, then some of it will spill over into foreign exchange markets. And eventually it gets into goods markets, and the prices of shirts and corn or whatever start to go up. Well, when that's going on, okay, when they're doing that and they're lending this money, if you think back to the late 90s, they were pouring money out, as you can see, and what happens is all that money starts to show up in what they call the dot-com industries. You all remember the big dot-com bubble? I can still remember one of my sons day trading, okay? And I'd come home sometimes, he'd be on the computer. He said, Dad, you got to see this. Here's a company that, you know, it exists on paper and all that, but it's never sold anything. It has no revenues, never earned a penny of revenue, and its stocks is selling for $1,500 a share. Okay, so enough to scare you, right? So it shows up there, and now let me put this other one in here. So when that happens, you see, all these prices are going up like that in the market, and all of a sudden the Fed gets worried, and they say, uh-oh, not only are we having all these prices going up in the dot-com, but now the prices of goods are starting to go up. So that's when they start to raise the interest rate. You see, this is a chart of the federal funds rate. So you see where it starts to go up there right before 2000 and goes on up? Well, guess what? They raised the interest rates, and when they raised the interest rates, the stock market broke, right? And so we had a financial collapse. Why does that happen? When you raise interest rates, why do stock prices go down? Well, think about that. If the interest rate goes up on bonds or something, or on your CDs, well, stocks have to compete with bonds, and so the yield on stocks has to go up, and if they're not earning anymore, the only way the yield can go up, is for the price to go down. So anyway, so they did that, the stock market broke, and then all of a sudden we started to have a slight recession. And the Fed always panics with recessions, and look at how the interest rates came down. Clickety, 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 click, 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 all the way down to an all-time low at 1% right now, which they held for over a year, right? Now they got money. They lowered the interest rates so much that after adjustment for inflation, what we call real interest rates, nominal interest rates adjusted for inflation, were negative. That means that the value of the money that you paid back a loan with had fallen so much that even though you paid more dollars back than you borrowed, in terms of purchasing power, you were giving the lender back less purchasing power than you had borrowed, much less any interest on it. Well, when interest rates are that low, of course, everybody and his brother wants to go out and borrow. So that's when all the borrowing started for these big SUVs and for the housing bubble that then starts, right? Which is just a big inflation in housing prices. So now we're misallocating resources to housing and SUVs and all that kind of stuff, and massive misallocations, because the housing industry and the automobile industry are major, major industries in our economy. And so now we're misallocating resources all over the place because the interest rate had been driven artificially low by the Federal Reserve. But you have to stop and ask yourself, wait a minute. They were lending money to people to buy houses, but it turns out a lot of these people ended up defaulting on their loans, right? Why is that? And then you go back